Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about Mate, Become the Man Women Want by Tucker Max and Geoffrey Miller. The book came out in 2015 following up a podcast called The Mating Rounds that both of the authors put together as a way to start to share some of that content and understand what guys were needing to help improve their dating lives. And I think they knocked it out of the park. I'll talk about the book. I'll review it a little bit, but I want to talk about the key things that stuck out to me as I kind of progressed in my life and improving my relationships with women. I have an amazing girlfriend now, and I think without this book, I wouldn't have learned some of the things that were super important to help get me there. And there's not really a lot of good resources for us guys. There's a lot of seduction techniques and just all this crap that's out there that doesn't really address the actual problem. This book is not that. It's not a list of pickup lines, seduction techniques. All that stuff is temporary. That's not going to help you make lasting changes again to have better relationships with the women in your life. So I'm excited. Let's dive into this thing. So the book is broken down into 5 parts. The first one is making decisions with science, not bias. So this gives you a framework of how to think about when you're doing research. You found this video, you're probably, curious about how to make my dating life better. There's a lot out there, and not a lot of it is good stuff. So that's going to help you think about how to discern what's valuable and what you should actually consider versus things that are just written by people behind a computer who it's very anecdotal experience. And imagine you get all these pickup lines and you go and you're like, oh wow, that actually worked. But understanding the science and understanding evolutionary psychology and biology, which Tucker and Geoffrey introduced in this book, understanding why did those work, right? So when you start to understand the why, you can operate. You don't need to go Google pickup lines, right? Like you can understand human sexuality and behavior. It's a relatively new field of study, but there's a lot of really great books out there, and it's really helping to inform dating advice. And I think that there's, again, a lot of information out there, but there's some good stuff and bad stuff. And the very first thing you want to do as you get into this process is making sure you're finding the good stuff. The second part of that is accounting for the woman's perspective. I have read a lot of dating books, and I have not seen this as explicitly done as it is in Mate. And I think it's so important. It was one of my favorite sections. There's an amazing analogy that just helped things click for me a little bit more. But you want to develop cross-gender empathy. As I mentioned, this book is really about having better relationships with the women in your life. And that could be a girlfriend, that could be your sister, your female friends, your coworkers, whoever it is. Understanding the woman's perspective is an integral part of dating, and we as guys do not think about that. And I don't necessarily think that it's our fault. I think we get so caught up in trying to impress women or trying to think about the right thing to say because we're scared of sexual humiliation. That's evolutionary psychology right there. That's one of our biggest fears. So knowing that, that's why you get nervous to talk to a woman. But that's why it's so important to understand her perspective. Take the time to do that. It will, serve you well. It'll serve you in spades. The third part is owning your attractiveness. So a lot of the times we look for external quick fixes. What's the best cologne? What's the best bar to go to, the best pickup line? We make up a story about ourselves that sounds really cool, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own attractiveness, and there's a lot of things that you can do to improve that. So don't overlook that either. Don't think that a pickup line is gonna, kind of take all that away. And that was a big thing for me. Is in my early 20s, I needed, I was overweight. I needed to get back in shape. I needed to learn new skills like cooking. I needed to socialize more. I got into, kind of some public speaking. I joined some groups. That was huge. And I just thought that I could solve the problem, not by changing myself, but just changing, externally. Oh, what do I say? Or buy a new shirt or the cologne or new shoes, which is, part of that. And you'll see in the book is important. But at the end of the day, you've got to invest in yourself. And they provide a lot of really good ideas for you to be able to do that. The fourth part of the book, be honest with yourself and others. This is so overlooked in dating. Take the time to think about what you want and be honest with yourself about it. It sounds simple, but it's not, because you're going to have a lot of different voices in your head. You might not know what you want, and that's okay. Just learn to be honest with yourself. Get those voices out of your head. It's not what your friends want. It's not what your parents want. It's what you want. And as long as you're not hurting anyone or being deceitful, then it's okay. I've seen so many people who are in relationships that want to be single. And it's so obvious that they do, but they can't be honest with themselves. They make stupid decisions. They hurt their partners. And I've seen situations in the reverse. People who think, oh, I'm too young. I shouldn't want a relationship. But deep down, they do. Your relationships will be a lot smoother if you can be honest with yourself and you can be honest with others. A lot of people criticize me for being brutally honest about what I wanted in different stages of my life. But at the end of the day, it served me a lot better. Because you're going to find, I'm telling you right now, you're going to go on dates. And if you're not looking for the same thing as the woman, there's going to be conflict. Especially when you're looking for short term and she's looking for long term. Even vice versa, it doesn't matter. There's going to be friction there. And if you don't talk about it and have a direct conversation, I think that might be the single biggest takeaway from this book. As you start to date and get into a relationship, have direct conversations with people. First learn to know what it is that you want, but then share that with the person. If you're going on dates and you're looking for a relationship, it's okay to talk about that and say, look, I've dated and I've done this and this and that. I'm really in the headspace where I'm looking for my next relationship, and that doesn't need to happen right away. It could be 6 months, a year, but that's on my mind. That's okay. And guess what? The women who you're dating or going on dates with, some of them will say, nope, I'm not looking for that. And that's great, because then you can save each other a lot of time, or you have those expectations, and it'll help you filter the ones that you want to continue spending time with, because you want to find someone who wants what you want. And that plays into the fifth part of the book, which is play to win-win. This completely changed my perspective. It's not me versus you. I've got to go impress you. I've got to convince you to go on a date. I've got to, make you want to do this. No. It's not how it works. If you do all of these things, if you make decisions with science as you go through this process, if you learn how to account for the woman's perspective, that's going to improve your interactions immensely. And you're going to meet new people from that. If you own your attractiveness, and then if you're honest with yourself and you know what it is you're looking for, that's very attractive in a person. And then if you play to win-win, you're going to go out and find people who want what you want. And you're going to have better relationships. There's going to be a lot less friction. You're going to break a lot less hearts, if you do things in that manner. So I'm excited to dive into each of these sections in a little more detail. So a little more in depth with part 2, account for the woman's perspective. Tucker and Jeff came up with a really great analogy that, for me, as I mentioned earlier, just a light bulb went off, and I thought, wow, women have a very different experience in certain environments than I might, and that helps me better interact with people. And that analogy, I'll share it, is imagine that you are in a gay bar, and there are men the size of NFL linebackers in that bar. Imagine how you're feeling right now. Close your eyes, visualize that. Imagine how you're feeling. Guys who are about 6 to 8 inches taller than you, anywhere from 50 to 80 pounds heavier than you. And they want to talk to you. Some are nice, some are mean, some are aggressive. There's a lot of them. There's one of you. But they could physically overpower you at any moment if they wanted to. So you might be afraid to say no. One of them might ask for your phone number, and if they're a little bit aggressive, you might give that up, right? Or it might be an uncomfortable feeling being there alone. So now think about, the average size of a woman is probably about 5'5", 160 pounds. The average male's 5'9", 5'10", 180, 190 pounds. There's a 30, 40 pound difference, 4 or 5 inch difference. So imagine someone 5 inches, 40 pounds heavier than you, coming up to you and wanting your phone number and maybe being a little bit aggressive. Just think about that environment, and that is, what it is like for a woman at a bar. And hopefully some things are going off for you in your head, and it's like you don't want to be aggressive. You want to understand, and again, from evolutionary biology, psychology, that a woman's biggest subconscious reptilian brain fear is that you are going to hurt her. And, I think Stephen Colbert, it was Louis C.K. actually, who talked about the biggest threat to women is men. And that's true. So you want to think about that and approach things like that. I remember sitting and talking with my barber once, and he was really frustrated that he tried to talk to a couple women at a bar. They wanted nothing to do with it, and he thought it was rude that they didn't give him the time of day. But deep down, it was his own insecurity, and it was, I got rejected, so I'm hurt and I'm angry and I'm frustrated. But I told him that analogy, and he's like, okay, that makes sense. Like, you're just another guy who's a lot larger, and they might just not be in the mood to talk to someone. So focus more on that, because I think a lot of us, we were like, oh, I must have done something wrong. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen people or personally experienced where, like, I meet a woman at the wrong time and she's not interested, but I meet her in a different setting. Something else is going on, or maybe she was dating someone else, or whatever it is, and you can't get upset about those things, and you don't want to take it too personally. Yes, you're accountable for your own attractiveness, which I'm going to talk about more in depth, but remember that analogy. Remember that, women have different experiences. Women can get pregnant, men cannot, and that informs a lot of our sexual strategies. That's also very, very, that's probably at the crux of, understanding cross-gender empathy is that, women need to feel physically and emotionally safe to, have sex with a person, generally speaking, right? And, for men, there's less risk because, we don't have to carry a baby for 9 months. And when you think about, the human evolution and how important it would be for a woman to have a partner who stuck around, we are now sort of programmed. I don't know if programmed is the right word, but we've evolved to select for traits that show us that someone is going to stick around in case something happened. And that is why women are more selective in the short term. Men get to be more selective in the long term because women want men who can commit. So that's another thing to remember, is that, women they are going to be, there's commitment skepticism bias. They're going to be skeptical that you're going to stick around and be around afterwards. And that's why it's so important to be honest with yourself and be honest with others. And I think that that's why, even if a woman wants a short-term relationship, you being honest, it helps her feel better and more safe, because you're not trying to trick her. She can feel emotionally safe with you because, wow, it is risky to say, I'm only looking for short-term, like, I'm not that guy, but being genuine and being honest is attractive, and you can feel safe with a person. So again, account for the woman's perspective. Get out of your own head. And I know it's hard because you'll face a lot of rejection, but there's a reason for that. Most women are going to have to say no, to a lot of guys because they get hit on all the time. So approach it with that. Think about being in a bar with a bunch of NFL linebackers. It's, who want to hit on you and talk to you and want your phone number and are going to get mad at you if you don't give it to them. Think about what that would feel like. And you're by yourself and you don't have friends. Why do you think a lot of women go to bars with friends? Because that is their experience. So if you start to do this, I think it's really going to help. It'll improve your relationships. It's going to help ease the pain of rejection. I know rejection sucks, but understanding, what women go through, it's going to help you. And you'll be like, it might not have been me. A lot of the times, it's probably not even you. It's the situation or what's going on in her life. Don't make it all about you. Think about, and then when you have a relationship, I'll tell you this right now, like I mentioned, I'm in a relationship now, and I'm having better relationships because I'm able to think about this. And I get caught in my own head, but really try and think, okay, well, what might she be feeling? And I know that sounds basic, and women watching this are probably like, oh, why aren't you thinking about this naturally? Guys tend to be dumb, and we need a little bit more time to learn these things. But I promise you, if you start to do that, you'll have much better interactions with women. So I'm going to go a little more in depth to part 3, owning your attractiveness. These are things that you can do yourself. You have to put in the work. But I think a lot of us get hung up on thinking about how do we improve what happens in that social interaction, but we do nothing prior. And what I mean by that is, think about it going on a date. You have a date this Thursday. What have you done this week so far that's going to be interesting to talk about? Have you taken a cooking class? Have you gone to a workout class? Did you give a presentation at work? Did you travel last month with your friends to a new city? Right? Even just putting yourself out into the world and doing interesting things is going to make you more attractive to the woman. And that's something that you own. Don't just think that the night before, again, you can look up routines or pickup lines or canned things to say. Go out and experience the world. That was the first thing that I learned, is that, I can, even with my girlfriend now, I try to still be interesting and still do things and teach myself, learn new skills. And it just gives you so much more to talk about, and you have more fun with the people you're around. Another important thing is getting in shape. That's number one. Look at yourself, be honest with yourself. What kind of shape you're in? Do you exercise? What type of exercise? How's your diet? Start to put in the work. Even if you're doing it a little bit today, do it more, because it's going to help build confidence. And if you walk into a bar today, or you walk into a group class, or you walk into somewhere where there's women that you want to talk to, project out 3 months. If you've lost 15 pounds, I'm telling you right now, you can change nothing else, and you're going to get more attention, because you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to look better. It's a very honest external signal that you can be disciplined and go to the gym, and you invest time in yourself. That's important. That's attractive. Find clothes that fit. I can't tell you how many guys I see who are in hoodies at bars, and wear a nice shirt, or dress for whatever environment it is. Don't wear Crocs. Like, wear nice shoes. Just put the thought into your appearance, and I think that's going to go a long way. Fingernails are a big one. I hear women talk about it all the time. Long fingernails are gross. I always cut my fingernails, but I never thought of that before. But it's important. Cut your fingernails, wash your ears, shave your nose hairs, trim your beard, take care of yourself. Those things do matter to some degree, and you can overcome, height, right? Like, taller, usually better, but that's not something you can overcome if you're in good shape. Those are things that you control, that you can control. So put in the work. So I think the number one takeaway from part 3 of the book is that there are changes that you can make to your appearance that you're in control over. So go do them. Go lose some weight. Go teach yourself some new skills. Cut your fingernails. Take a shower every day. Make sure you smell good. Take care of the hygiene piece. A lot of women notice that more than you probably think. So the final part here, playing to win-win. I've touched on this a bunch, but you want to make sure that your goal is not to trick anybody. Your goal is not to beat someone. You should be sitting on the same side of the table, and that is, again, another thing that's really going to help you with your relationships. When you figure out what you want, you want to go find people like that. You cannot be all things to all people. So you want to go find the people that want the same thing as you do and are interested in the same things as you. And that way you can have better relationships. You want to go to where the women are. So if you want short-term mating, then go to the club. Like, that's probably the right place to go. But if you want a longer-term partner who shares the same values as you do, then maybe you go volunteer, or you go do CrossFit, or you do something like that. But always remember that, and I think at the end of the day, the book Mate, Become the Man Women Want. It's worth reading. I haven't done it justice. I could probably talk for about 6 hours about all of the great points in this book. I just wanted to do that high level review in some of the sections and give you some teasers and just highlight some of the things that helped me, get to where I am today, because there's not a lot of there's no education around dating. And I think that's lacking in our society, and it's just a lot of it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of the other gender. And it goes both ways. And so I think that for men, this book is great. Like I mentioned, even if you're in a relationship, it's worth reading this, because you can better yourself. You'll have a better relationship with your girlfriend, and eventually, if you want to get married, your wife. For all the single guys out there, I know that you're probably getting a ton of material thrown at you, but I think that this is a book to start with. And then go to that podcast, because there is so much information there. A lot of really great stories and examples from the authors' lives, but also a lot of the new science and just the interpretation of that science and what it means for you. So, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, subscribe, like the video. I'll have plenty more content coming. I hope you have a good day.